Hello everyone, welcome to Coding with Ivan, and in this video we're going to make an image compressor application for Android. So let's get started. At first we will design the UI of our application, so I'm going to the activity main.xml. So here at first I'll change the root layout to a linear layout. I'll change its orientation to vertical. I'll also give this a padding of 8 dp. I'll set the gravity of this layout to center, the Android gravity center. I'll also change the background color of this layout to color white. And then inside this linear layout, I'll just delete this text view, and here I'll add a new scroll view where I'll set the width and height as match parent, and inside the scroll view I'll add another linear layout where I'll set the width as match parent and the height as wrap content. I'll also set the orientation of this linear layout to vertical. Now inside this I'm going to add another linear layout where I'll set the width as match parent and the height as wrap content. I'll change the orientation of this linear layout as horizontal. I'll also give a margin to the top of this layout of 16 dp. So here inside this linear layout I'm going to create another one to store a image view and a text view. So here I'll add the linear layout. For the width I'll pass match parent, and for the height let's pass 340 dp. I'll also change the orientation of this to vertical. I'll also give this a layout weight of 1. Also add some margin, the layout margin at 6 dp. Also add some padding of 4 dp. So this is the image view that we are going to create. So now let's give this a bordered background. So for this we have to create a new drawable file. So I'll open the res folder. Here inside the drawable I'll right click on it and create a new drawable resource file, and I'll call this custom_bg, and from here I'll change this selector to shape, and then for the shape I'll pass rectangle, and inside this shape I'll add a solid attribute where I'll set the color as color white. Then outside of this solid I'm going to add a new stroke where the width will be 3 dp, and for the color I'll pass color black, and I'll close this stroke here. So this will give us a black bordered background. Now we will use that inside our activity main. Inside this linear layout I'll set the background to drawable/custom_bg that we created. So here we got this, the black bordered background. So after that inside this linear layout I'm going to add a new image view. So here for the width I'll pass match parent, and for the height I'll pass 300 dp. Then I'll give this image view an ID also. I'll call this img original. Then I'll set the scale type of this image view to center crop so that the image inside this image view fits properly with the height and width. And then under this image view I'll also create a text view where I'll show the file size of that image. For the width I'll pass match parent here, and for the height I'll pass 40 dp because the container's height was 340. For the image view I passed 300, so I'll pass 40 dp for the text view here. Now I'll also give this text view an ID. I'll call this txt original. I'll set the text alignment for this text view to be center. I'll also change the text color to color black. and I'll also set the gravity for this text view to be center. So this is now the layout to show the image view and the text view. So I'll just minimize this layout here, and we need to copy this layout again because I'll create two of them. One is for the original image and one is for the compressed image. So I'll just copy this one more time under this, and here we got two of them. So now let's change the ID for the second one. So for the second one, I'll set the image views ID as img compressed, and for the text view I'll also change this to txt compressed. So now let's minimize them, and this is how it looks. So now outside of this linear layout, we need to create another one to show to edit texts to get the input of the maximum height and maximum width of our compressed image from the user. So I'll create another linear layout here. For the width, I'll pass match parent here, and for the height, I'll pass the wrap content. Now I'll change the orientation of this linear layout to horizontal, and I'll also give this a margin to the top of 16 dp. So now inside this linear layout, we'll add two edit texts. So here I'm going to add one edit text. I'll set the width for this edit text to match parent, and for the height I'll pass, let's say, 50 dp. I'll also give this edit text an ID. I'll call this txt height. I'll give this a layout weight of 1. Let's give a hint here. I'll write this is the height, and the input type for this edit text will be number. I'll change the text alignment to center here. I'll also give this a layout margin of 6 dp, and let's also add the bordered background for this edit text also. So for the background here, I'll pass @drawable custom bg here. Okay, so this is the edit text for the height. Now I'll copy this one more time for the width. So here I'll change the ID of this to txt width, and I'll also change the hint here as width. So here we got our two edit texts. I'll just minimize this, and now outside of this linear layout, we will add a seek bar to get the percentage of the compression from the user. So for this, at first I'll create a text view here. I'll set the width as match parent, and for the height I'll pass wrap content here. I'll give this text view an ID also. I'll call this txt quality, and here I'll also add a text where I'll write quality. Let's change the text alignment to the center, and also let's make the text color as color black. And now under this text view, let's create a seek bar, and here for the width of the seek bar I'll pass match parent, and for the height I'll pass wrap content. Okay, I'll give the seek bar an ID also. I'll call this seek quality, and I'll also add a margin to the top of 16 dp here. So this is the layout for our seek bar, and now under the seek bar we need to create two buttons. One of them is for picking an image from the gallery, and another one is to trigger the image compressor. So let's create them. Here I'm going to add a new button. For the width I'll pass match parent. For the height, let's pass 50 dp here. I'll give a ID for this button. I'll call this btn pick. For the text of this button, I'll pass pick image. I'll give this a overall margin of, let's say, 10 dp, And similarly I'll create another button for triggering the image compressor. So I am just copying this button one more time here, and this time I'll change the id to btn compress, and I'll change the text also to compress. Alright, so that was for the UI of our application. Now we can go to the main activity.java here, and here at first I'll initialize all the views that we created here. So I'm going to create objects for all of them. At first let's create object for the image view, the img original, img compressed. Then for the text views, txt original, txt compressed, and txt quality was also there. Okay, let me zoom in a little bit so you can see clearly. Then I'll add the edit texts here. So the first one will be the txt height, then the txt width. Then let's create an object for the seek bar. I'll call this seek bar, and then I'll create objects for the button, the btn peak and the btn compress. I'll also create two file objects to store the original image and the compressed image. Alt enter, and the first one will be original image and then the compressed image. Then I'll also take a string to store the file path. So for this I'll take a private static string. I'll call this file path. Then I'll create a new path for saving the compressed image inside our internal storage. I'll create a custom folder inside the internal storage where all the compressed images are going to be saved. So for this I'll create a new file. I'll call this path equals new file, and here I'll get the file path for the internal storage and we'll create a new extra directory there. So to get the internal storage, I'll write environment.get external storage directory, this one. You may get this as deprecated. For this I'll be showing another method inside the display. Now you can use that also, and if you want to know more about that method, you can watch my video on the Android File Explorer application tutorial. I'll give the link of that video in the description. So here after the get external storage directory, I'll write dot get absolute path. So here after the path I'm going to create another folder. So I'll add the folder's name as slash, slash, I'll call this, let's say, my compressor, okay, semicolon. So here we have the new file path to store the compressed images, and now we need to handle the runtime permissions to access the internal storage. And for this I'll create a new method, or call a new method here. Inside the onCreate method I'll write ask permission, and we will create this method outside of the onCreate view. So I'll click on this create method. So here we have that method, and now to ask the runtime permission we are going to use a library that I always use. This is the Dexter library. So I'll give the link of this library in the description. From there you can just copy this dependency and go back to the Android Studio here and go to the build Gradle of the app level, and here inside these dependencies we need to just paste that and click on sync now. So once it's done we can go back to the main activity.java here, and here we need to define the runtime permissions inside this method. But before that we need to define the permissions inside our manifest file. So I'll go to this android manifest.xml and inside here I'll define the permissions. So at first I'll write the user's permission to access the write external storage, and then I'll add another permission to access the read external storage. Okay, so we have added these permissions inside the manifest file. Now we can go to the main activity.java here and we'll define our permissions here. So inside the ask permission method I'll write Dexter dot with context, and here I'll pass the context as this, and then dot with permissions, and here I'll pass the permissions like the manifest dot permission dot read external storage, and then the manifest dot permission dot write external storage. Okay, so after that I'll write dot with listener, and here I'll create a new multiple permission listener, new multiple permissions listener, and here we got two methods. So inside the second one, which is the on permission rational should be shown, we got a permission token. So I'll go inside the method body and I'll write the permission token dot continue permission request, and inside the permission checked we can show a toast message, but I won't write anything inside. So I'll come here and I'll write dot check here. So this will now handle our runtime permission. Let's minimize this. Okay, and now let's quickly initialize these views that we created. Okay, so here I have defined all the views here. So now one thing I need to do inside the activity main now is when the user opens the app for the first time and doesn't select any image, we will hide this compress button, and as soon as the user selects an image we will show that here, and we'll also show the image size here, and then we will make this compress button visible. So for this I'll go here inside this compress button, under here I'll set the visibility of this to gone, so it doesn't show to the user at first time. Okay, now let's go back to the main activity.java here, and here I'll define the file path with the path that we created. So I'll write file path equals path dot get absolute path, and then we will check if the file path already exists in our internal storage or not. So for this I'll write a if checker here. So I'll check for the path dot exists, and I'll add a not here. So if the file doesn't exist, then we'll create the folder. So I'll write path dot make directory. All right, so that will create a new folder if it doesn't exist inside the internal storage. So now let's create a on click listener for our button pick. So what we want to do when the user will click on the button pick is it will open the gallery to select an image from there, and it will show inside the image view this one with the size of that image. So let's do that. For this I'll go here inside the onCreate method and I'll write button pick dot set onClick listener new view dot onClick listener, and inside here I'll call a method open gallery, and I'll define this method outside of the onCreate. So I'll click on the main activity. So here I'll simply create a new intent. I'll call this gallery equals new intent, and here I'll set the action for this intent to intent dot action pick, and then I'll pass the media store dot images dot media dot internal content URI. Okay, and then I'll call the start activity for result, and here I'll pass the gallery intent that we created, and I'll pass this for a result code. So let's quickly define a new integer for the result code here. I'll call this public static final integer. I'll name this result underscore image equals 1, and I'll set this value inside the start activity for result here. So I'll write result image here. So that will open the gallery and ask for the user to pick an image, and it will return with this result image code. So we need to catch this data from the on activity result method with this result image code. So let's quickly override the on activity result method here. So I'll write on activity result, and inside here after this super call we will check for the result code. So I'll write if result code equals result okay, result underscore okay. Then inside the if conditions body I'll just make the compress button visible because we got the image. So I'll write btn compress dot set visibility equals visible, and then we will create a URI from the data that we are getting from here. So I'll create a final URI. I'll call this image URI equals data dot get data, and then we'll convert this into a bitmap to show the image inside our image view. For this, at first I'll create a new input stream. So I'll write final input stream. I'll call this image stream equals get content resolver dot open input stream, and here we'll pass the image URI that we got. All right, so it's showing an error here. Let's see what it's saying. It's saying we need to add this or surround this with try catch block. So let's do that and click on here. So here we have this input stream inside the try catch block. Now after the input stream we need to create a bitmap from this. So I'll write final bitmap. I'll call this selected image equals bitmap factory dot decode stream, and here I'll pass the image stream. So that will create a bitmap from the image stream here, and now we can finally create a file from this bitmap, and then we can show this bitmap inside our original image view. So I'll write img original, which is our image view to store the original image. So I'll write img original dot set image bitmap, and here I'll pass the selected image bitmap. So it will show the image inside this image view. Now we need to also show the file size of that original image inside the text view under that image view. For this, let's create a file for this selected image. So for this case, now I'm going to use the original image file that I created earlier here. So I'll go down here, I'll call the original image here equals new file, and here I'll pass the path for the image file. So I'll call the image URI here that we got from here dot get path, and as I saw inside the path we were also getting an extra string called raw, which was not processing by the Android Studio to get the file path. So we just need to remove that. So for this I'll write dot replace, and here I'll replace this raw string inside our file path with an empty string like this. Now inside the txt original we need to show the file size of that original image. So I'll call this txt original dot set text, and here I'll pass the file size. For this I'll write a string here called size, and I'll add this with the formatter. We need to use the formatter for android.text.format dot format short file size, and here I'll pass the context here, and the second parameter will be the original image here dot length. Okay, so that will now return the file size of that image in megabyte or kilobyte or whatever it is. So now that we have got our original image, so inside the catch block we can also show a toast message so that the user can see that we got an error. So inside the toast message I'll write something went wrong. Okay, so this was for the toast message inside the catch block. Now let's come outside of this if statement. Here I'll write a else block also, where I'll show another toast which will say no image selected. Okay, so that's it for our image picker. Now we can minimize all these methods and we can work on the on-click listener for the button compress. So I'll create the on-click listener for the button compress here, btn compress dot set on-click listener new view dot on-click listener, and inside here at first I'll get the image height, image width and image quality from the edit text and the seek bar that we created on the UI. So in order to get the value from the seek bar, we need to create a on seek bar change listener for the seek bar. So I'll just do it here. I'll call this seek bar here dot set on seek bar change listener. I'll create a new seek bar dot on seek bar change listener. Here we got three of the methods. I'll go inside this on progress change method, and here I'll get the value of the seek bar, and I'll show that inside the txt quality. So I'll write txt quality dot set text, and here I'll write quality equals, and I'll add the integer value here which is the I. I'll pass it here. So here now we got the quality and we attached it to the txt quality, and now we need to set the maximum value for the seek bar. So for this I'll write seek bar dot set max, and here I'll pass 100. So that's it for the seek bar on change listener method. We will minimize that also, and I'll go inside the button compress. So from here now we can get all the values like the height, width and quality. At first I'll get the quality, so I'll write int quality equals seek bar dot get progress, and then for the width I'll get the width from the txt width, and we need to get this as integer. So I'll typecast this to integer. So I'll write integer dot parse int, and then I'll pass the txt width dot get text dot to string. Okay, and similarly for the height I'll take another object called integer height equals integer dot parse int, and I'll call the txt height dot get text dot to string here. Alright, So now we got all of the three values. Now we can start the image compressor. So here I'll call the compressed image that we created up here, this one. I'll call this here, and we need to initialize this with the image compressor. So now for the image compressor we are going to use a library for that, which is this one, the compressor library by id.zelory, maybe, if I'm not wrong. Okay, so I'll give the link of this library in the description. From there we will just copy this dependency and we'll go back to the Android Studio and open the app level Gradle file. Here under this I'll paste that and click on sync now. So once it's done, we can go back to the main activity.java here, and here after this compressed image I'll write equals new compressor, and it's showing error because we need to import the class, the id.zelory.compressor class. We can just simply hit alt enter, then hit the import class. That will import the class for the compressor. Okay, and now inside this we have to pass the context first. So for the context I'll pass main activity.this, and after that we need to add the maximum height and maximum width and the other attributes. So I'll write dot set max width, and here for the width I'll pass the width that we got from here, and after that I'll write dot set max height, and I'll pass the height that we got from here. And then let's add the quality also. So set quality, I'll pass the quality that we got from here, and then let's also pass a compress format. So I'll write set compress format, and I'll compress this with bitmap dot compress format dot, let's go for the JPEG or JPEG, whatever it is. Then let's also set the destination path to save the compressed image file. So I'll write dot set destination directory path, and here I'll pass the file path that I defined right here. Okay, and after that we can now compress our image file. So I'll write dot compress to file, and here I'll pass the original image. Okay, so as you can see it's showing an error because maybe we need to surround this also with try catch. Yes, I'll click on the surround with try catch here. So here we got the try catch block here, and similarly we need to show the image inside our this right side image view, and we need to also show the size of this compressed image here. So for this we will do the same that we did. We will create a bitmap and a file. So here now I'm going to create a new file. I'll call this final file equals new file, and inside the parameter I'll pass the file path, and then I'll pass the name of that original image, because inside the file path we will only get the folders path, and we need to also pass the file name also. So for this we will pass just the original image, because the compressed image also gets saved with the name of the original image's name. So here I'll pass the original image dot get name, and then we will create a bitmap from the final file. So I'll write bitmap, I'll call this final bitmap equals bitmap factory dot decode file, and here I'll pass the final file dot get absolute path. Now we can show this bitmap inside our img compressed image view. So I'll write img compressed dot set image bitmap, and here I'll pass the final bitmap that we created here, and after that I need to also show the compressed images file size. So for this I'll call the txt compressed dot set text, and here I'll write size equals, again same, I'll call the formatter the android.text.format short file size. Here I'll pass the context, and then we need to pass the final file dot length. Okay, so that will show the file size. And as you can see here, we are getting a small error because it's not getting the context by this. So I'll write main activity dot this here. So now the error is solved. So now after, when the image is compressed, we can also show a toast message here, which will say image compressed and saved. And inside the catch block, we will show another toast message which will say error while compressing. Okay, so our coding is now done. Now let's run this inside our phone and see how it goes. Okay, so as you can see, our app is now installed and it's asking for the storage permission. I'll grant that. And here is our application. So here, if I click on the pick image, it will open the gallery. Now let's select one image. I'll go to the downloads and select this one. Okay, so here you can see inside the left image view, we have the original image, and the size of this image is of 2.6 megabyte. Now let's give this a height of, let's say 1080, and for the width I'll pass 720, and let's set the quality to 70% around. So for the quality, the lower the percentage is, the smaller the size of the output file will be. So the sweet spot, I'll say, is around 70 to 80%. So I'll keep this to 72, and I'll click on compress, and as you can see, it says image compressed and saved. And here inside the right image view, we got the compressed image with the size of 250 kilobytes. You can also if you don't want this size, or if you want to lower the size, you can also change the quality. Let's compress this with around 30%, and let's click on the compress again. As you can see, it's compressed again, and now the size is 117 kilobytes. Okay, so the image is now compressed and also saved inside our internal storage. Now let's go to the file manager and see if the image is saved or not. So here we are inside the file explorer. Let's refresh this one more time, and we define the file or the folder name as my compressor in our code. So here you can see we have a folder named my compressor. So if I go inside that, you can see here is the image. Okay, so this is the compressed image that we got. So yes, that's how we can simply create a image compressor application for Android. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like this video if you enjoyed, and subscribe to my channel for more awesome projects. Thank you so much for watching.